What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the TACBox Podcast. Today is June 10th, and if you paid attention to our Facebook page, which you should be doing if you're not, we put out a bolo yesterday to be on the lookout for this episode because this episode is a unique, special one. We have some special guests. Dale has them next to him. He'll bring them out here in a second. But welcome to this episode of the podcast. I got my co-host Dale with me. How you doing, Dale?
Everything is good. We didn't get blown away with the storms or anything. I mean, so we have survived to play another day.
I feel like every day when I talk to you, it's like, yep, tornado warning last night.
Yeah,
It's like a daily thing.
it's like it, and we lived here like 12 years, nothing. And then like this summer, it's like really safe room again, again. It gets a little anticlimactic, and you go, oh yeah, that red mark, that's over me. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And we have, Dale comes to town, runs a marathon, brings the Texas heat with him, and then forgets to take it back. So
Whoa,
that's,
that was hot.
well, and we're at 95 right now today. So it's like, thanks, Dale. Thanks for bringing that with.
Yeah, wow, that's hotter than we are now.
Yeah, we're supposed to be in the 70s again tomorrow, so we'll be fine. You have that just that climatic drop of temperature, and it gets all weird. So, how was your weekend? What'd you do this last weekend?
Well, I judged a dog show on Thursday and Friday, flew from Denver back. Denver. Wow, that's an airport, right? You've done something when you've navigated that airport. And then, got back here and been like, just made it time for the storms and do laundry. I'll have everyone know that I had to go change my shirt because I wasn't wearing my Tuesday shirt with the buffalo and the stars that's already had a cartoon avatar. So Tyson's like, really doing that one again? Like, okay, I'll go change my shirt. So we want to keep it fresh here. We've got a big plan on this here.
Yeah, we can't wear the same Tuesday shirt every Tuesday. We got to switch it up a little bit.
No, that makes South Dakota boys look like we are like, but today we are going to talk about puppy evaluation, and we're going to use Japanese chin, and that we're going to talk, and this is Tyson's job to ask the hard questions, and he can say them because he's all the way on the other side of the country, and he can go, well, Dale, that's a terrible looking puppy or whatever. We're going to really look them over and figure out what it takes to exactly make a good one and what we should be looking for at this age. And if we don't have it, because we have some 6 weeks old, and we've got some 4 months old, and we got like a 6-month old, so we can kind of look at them in different angles and kind of get an idea for our proportions.
Yeah, because that's one of the big questions that you get a lot, I'm sure, and one that I see flowing through the TACBox Podcast Facebook is, evaluating puppies and what you should be seeing at what age. So you have a bunch of different age puppies that you can show us what you're looking for, maybe what you're not looking for. And so I'm super excited for this episode and what you brought to the table to show us. And I mean, probably didn't bring the best of the best. I know you're reserving some of that for your own self, right? I mean, come on.
We want to see the different ranges of it. And one thing I'm going to tell you, that for table breed puppies, that because all the time you'll hear people say, I don't train my dogs, I just do it at the show. Yeah, don't do that. You got to get these puppies started at an early age. As soon as they can be, as soon as they're like a month old, get them on the table, get them used to it. It will always tell on people whether they've done the groundwork with their puppies. When they put them on the table and they're like they're like going over the edge of the Titanic. You have not had that puppy on the table. And some breeds are harder than others. Of course, we so wisely have chose Japanese chin, which are hard on a hard level. They don't like to stand on the table. So if you don't start them young, you have some really proud moments ahead of you.
So what age range do you have? You have 4 weeks to 6 months?
I have a litter of 5 babies that are about 6 weeks old, and then I have 3 that are about 4 months old, and then I have a 6-month-old puppy.
Perfect.
And we can kind of look over. A lot of times people will say, this puppy is in the ugly age, or this puppy is not is or it wasn't the best puppy, but it got prettier. Maturity, weight, hair, development does not equal quality. It can tip the scales in the ring, but for the breeder, you know, you should be able to look at a dog that is not in coat and go, I love that dog. I don't care if it's in coat. It's so nice. Being in coat and having long hair or being, like all that. Yeah, who cares? And I see this all the time in our breed. Lots of pictures because we have symmetrical face markings and they face straight into the camera and they go, oh, listen, that's beautiful. Look at the long hair. And then throw in a little Photoshop and they get really glamorous looking. Doesn't make them good. Doesn't even make them kind of good, because if you don't turn that head to the side and check out that profile, you got nothing. You got nothing. I mean, it's like, it's just a pretty animal. Papers say it's a chin or whatever. You got to look at that profile because that's very key to our breed. You ready to start looking at puppies?
Yeah, let's. What do you got first for us?
All right, let's see here. All right. This is a black and white female puppy, and this is a pretty nice puppy. You can kind of see this. She's got a good amount of space in between the eyes. That's one thing dogs will never get more of, a space between the eyes. They will get less, it will get more crowded in as they get older. This puppy has a little bit of white behind its ear, saying that we need to go, send it up the river. But I mean, that is something as a breeder, kind of keep that in mind. We don't want necessarily to, because next thing you know, you're going to get a half white ear or you can get a broken mask. It does have a little white behind the ear. Let's
So this
see.
puppy is how old?
This puppy is like 6 weeks old.
Okay, so when you pick up this puppy and you're starting to look, evaluate it, what is like some of the first things that you notice with
I'm
specifically
gonna
chin here?
does this puppy look square? All right, here we go. Does it look square? We want to look for the length of back to be into the length of loin. So we want a full rib cage and then a short loin. But look, we're going to look at this puppy from the side. And if I took my credit card out and put it on its bottom chin and then touched its forehead, its nose should be inside its face. So if the nose is touched by the credit card, it's too long a nose. And I would say 65% of the Japanese chin shown today, too long a nose. So
So when you're looking at the side profile,
it should be
should
quilted.
you see any bump for the nose, or should it be inside to where you see zero bump? It's just that nice smooth three with no
See the
perfect.
3 here? See the foreskull here? So you gotta touch that, make sure it's not just hair, and then you gotta feel here, and you go, okay. So the nose is what we call inside the face. Very hard to get, very easy to fool. There's lots of dogs, I call him a fooler. Has a little fluff on his head, pretty markings. But when you look at this dog here, look at the breadth of the jaw in relation to where the eyes are, and then look at the width of the skull from the back. So the width of that skull, because you read things in the standard and you go, well, how do I know if those are big eyes? How do I know? I mean, it says big eyes. Bigger than what? Well, the eye should be bigger than the nose. That's kind of a good angle there. And so you want eye should be bigger than the nose. The mouth should be broad underneath. The mouth should that you cannot have too much width of jaw underneath. That's very hard to get. They're usually narrow jawed and narrow skull. The skull on the chin should be round. And let's see if I can set my hair. You can see a slight doming, and then with the nose inside the face. You want to see these feet should be like little paint brushes. They're a hair foot, and you want to see that ribs go right into the elbows.
So when you're evaluating length, I mean, at this stage of maturity, very fluffy. Still got that puppy coat, fluffy. So
Right.
you're going hand right where the tail meets the body
Yep.
and straight
Yep.
down
Yep.
is
And look at how the
one.
tail comes into the head. See if I can get the head. See how that tail is, how close it is to the head? The tail should go over most of the rib cage. If it doesn't, too long. Too long. Long bodies, long loins, and long noses. Hard. And you can see lots of big winning dogs. Long, long, long. And a chin is short, 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 round, round, round. A chin is like a little beach ball, because you want it to be super square, and you want to see that nose to be inside the face. See if my shirt's a good background there. Okay. Anyway, so pretty nice puppy.
So what about the coloring on this specific puppy? Because I think what some people will notice is it's very white.
It's high white. It is a high white puppy. It's got a lot of white on it. I wish it had more color on it. In the
Now,
perfect,
when it comes to the chin standard,
it's
I'm
all
just
anything.
throwing dumb questions out there.
No, good question. So
That doesn't matter as long as the masking is correct, right?
here's the official terminology. As long as minimum markings requirements are met, it has acceptable markings. However, as a breeder, you had better be aware that this particular bitch puppy is a high white puppy. She is almost all white. She has one body spot here. She has a little bit of white lacing coming in behind the ears. Not great, but it happens. And she has a white show side. I mean, now I'll tell you what, the thing just as a breeder. So what if I keep this puppy back to breed, I will breed her for more color.
So you'll
I
breed
would
her to a dog that has a lot of black
have
or
more
color in general.
more of a saddle, because if she had a saddle, she would appear to even be shorter. She's pretty short for being a little snowflake. She's pretty short, but you're gonna want to see that that length of back and all that with a black saddle. Oh my gosh, she'd be having no back at all. But let's take a couple of close-ups of that head. You can kind of get the feel for that.
On to the next puppy. Are you pulling out a littermate?
Yeah, Littermate. Now,
Okay.
this puppy here, she has more color on her, and her head is not as good as the other puppy. And why is it not as good? Because, let's pull it out here. She has a little bit of notch in that nose. It would still be better than a lot of what we would see in the ring. She does not have as much width in the muzzle. She does have very flattering, she has a beautiful bonnet of color over the ears, which is very, very flashy. Let's see if we get this one. She's nice little conformation as far as like elbows into the ribs. The length is good. But where I would fault this puppy, her head is not as good. And I see, just as like on that, the nose is just a little bit more out of the face. Whereas if you have this one here, we see the difference.
Barely, but I think you can see, yeah, the nose is just a tiny bit out further.
A
And
little
I
bit
don't know
out.
if the normal person would see that. I mean, you're looking at puppies all the time and inspecting.
Look at the width of the jaw. You can see this puppy has a wider underjaw. This puppy is a little narrower underjaw. This puppy's ears hang a little bit lower. This puppy's ears are set just a little bit off of a broader head. And we're going to turn them to the back.
So what do you like more on that then? Do you like the ears to sit a little bit lower? Because it makes, in my view from here, it makes the head look more domed.
This head is more oval shaped. This head's more round. Round, round, round. I mean, will this puppy finish? 3 shows. It's no big deal. But chin breeder should know, you know, don't ever believe your own advertising. You got to know what you actually have. This is a better head, more quilted, broader skull. This puppy here has her nose is a little bit more outside her face. Let's see here.
So you're starting to see already the pluses and minuses. Like the puppy that has the better head is a high white, so you could run into some issues with that down the line.
For sure, for sure.
The other
Absolutely.
puppy coloring looks better, but maybe not as nice of a head.
Right. So here is another girl puppy, and she's got a very exaggerated. You see how that? Can you see her face? How far her nose is inside her face,
Yeah,
and
and her
she's
head
got.
seems to have a bigger like dome forward.
So when you see the bubble gum cheeks, see that the width of this underneath here, and how the cheeks come out to the side. She's got her face is very extreme. You see the reverse 3, really pretty face on this right here.
So is
Got
that desirable or is that too extreme?
can't be too
Perfect.
extreme.
Okay.
Too extreme is, only if it's not yours and you want to try to find something to fault it on. Buy it if you can get it. Really pretty little feet. You got the little paintbrush feet, see the little points through their feet. Subby's has got a nice little breakup of markings and stuff. It's gonna make her look really short back.
So how do you feel about her length? Because the tail doesn't look like it goes up as far.
His tail does not go up as far. Good eye. We're gonna put one point there for Rapid City. She is not. She has a little bit more length of the loin. Her back isn't quite as short, but she is lucky because she has some markings on her, so that will make her appear to be shorter. That's
Okay.
one thing with the markings breed. You don't actually have to be short. You just have to look short. But as a breeder, know what you're breeding. But when you think about our original standard, we gave 65 points out of 100 for head, eyes, ears, and tail. So you have to have the head, eyes, ears, and tail, and you have to have that reverse 3. And if I see like little wet faces or little bird beaks, that's not a show dog. That's not a show quality Japanese chin, in my opinion.
So what development what's going to change when you're looking at these puppies at 4 weeks old right now or 6 weeks old? What's going to change on these dogs yet? Are they going to if you have something really nice right now, can that go away?
Well, they could turn a leg out. I mean, if they have beautiful head type, they will have beautiful head type from the day they're born to the day they die. A beautiful head type is like a flower blossoming. Now this is a little boy puppy here, and you can see the width of that jaw.
Where are we measuring the width? Are we measuring it right at the front of the snout, or are you measuring it more back down underneath?
Underneath the jaw. See if where the mandible hooks in, does it go
Yep.
back into the eyes?
Okay.
Otherwise it comes out. Which you see a ton of Japanese chin that have that. You want to see the tiny little sliver of white in the inside corner of the eye. Not much, just a tiny little sliver. Get stage fright. Brain feed on this puppy too. I know, but the head should look large in proportion to the body.
Which it does on this one for sure.
Yeah, that's it because it says right in there, fine bone, large head.
What does the standard mean by fine bone? Does that mean we want a skinny, tiny little dog, or we want
Yep, you wanted to have the legs, the leg on a Japanese chin is a bladed bone, which means it's flat on the sides and it goes into that pretty little paintbrush paw. And that makes them a daintiness. They should be running on carpets, not charging through underbrush to bring down rabbits. But when you start to look at them, it's the head detail. It's because a lot of times when people go to the show and they're all fluffed up, well, it's because they're trying to get width of head. And this puppy has a really wide head. And I always say when they're babies, when I look and they're little bitty, before their eyes are even open, if they look like they have a Mickey Mouse hat on with the mouse ears kind of off to the side, that's going to be a broad head. If their ears hang low, that's going to have a smaller, more of a up and down face instead of a round face.
now are the ears a little low on this one, or is it just the coloring that makes it look like they're a
Uh,
little low?
You have to go ahead and do like they used to do for school pictures, wet them
Wet
like your
them.
fingers. Yep. And feel that hair back and then push the ears up and see kind of like, is it slightly domed? Because you don't want them to be domed like an English Toy Spaniel. You only slightly domed, but that with, the size of the eye and, see how much bigger the eye is than the nose.
Yep.
And,
Nice and round, not almond shape.
yep. And no, not almond shape. And so this puppy has pigment on its lips. You see how his little lips are dark colored? That will generally mean that they don't have they will have more pigment in their eyes. Because when we talk about eye white in the Japanese chin, sometimes the eye white is not white. It's because what the eye white is scleral tissue. and that's not as it can be pigmented. Okay, now look at this puppy. This puppy has a notch for the nose right there. Now I can see that. Then how the nose comes out and down. This puppy here, the nose is in.
Yeah, you can't
You
even see the nose on that puppy.
you see where I stick my finger in here on this one right here, and then you see this puppy here, and you're a wonderful person. But this right here, that's way too much nose. And yes, we'll see this in the Japanese chin being shown all the time. This is narrower through the jaw, narrower through the eyes, and you can I can put my finger on top of its nose. Too long, too long. Can't, on a good Japanese chin, you should not be able to put your finger on the nose.
So should you really not be able to see any of the top of the nose, because it should just be pretty much front is what you're seeing and nothing on top, or you can't really like feel the top?
Can you see where my nail is? Can you see on that and on how the nail is onto the top of the nose here?
Yeah,
And then on this one right here, see how this one right here is like, it goes in.
you can just feel a shelf, I bet.
You can feel that, yeah, you can put your finger over the nose. And in reality, you should not be able to, because the should be inside the face. Now, this puppy here will be a wonderful fooler because this puppy has color down on her cheeks, and this will make fancy fake ears that look real pretty in pictures because it'll frame out the face. It will give the face false width. This puppy's head here will photograph better because she has more color on her head. This puppy has more white on her head, which doesn't make the head, it doesn't is flattering. This right here has got beautiful color, narrow there. She has the black going up onto the sides, which was going to make those big dramatic fake ear fringes. Don't care. Doesn't matter. Looks good in pictures, not quality chin. The chin's nose is where?
Inside the face.
Inside the face. But it's always got to be inside the face. And I would say a lot of judging of our breed, people don't pay attention to that, but that's not our problem. People can do things wrong all the time.
Just because judges don't pay attention to it doesn't mean we shouldn't be trying to get that. That should be our goal.
That should be our goal. But like I said, this puppy would finish easily because it's got a short back. You got good markings, got good feet, probably, could charge around the ring, but this would not be a puppy I would ever show myself because its nose is too long. And that's what I call a deal breaker.
So you hear it here first. There's a puppy for sale right there, everybody.
This puppy here has a better nose than the other one. But not as good a nose as this one. So this is very good. This is okay. And will this end up getting better more? No, this will never get better, but it will be harder to see because it will blend in. She's got real pretty lip pigment, and she's got a really pretty facial marking. That'll look nice, but that's still, at the end of the day, not the nose inside the face. All right, so these little guys, they still have what we call, these are two, they're both really good nose inside the face type puppies. You can kind of see, the quilting on them, and you see the width between the eyes. Let's see this one right here again. These three puppies right here, I would say, have A-grade faces. As far as width between the eyes, roundness of heads, roundness of ribs. This is what I would look to hold on to keep myself. And this is what I would look to try to find, because all of them have really extreme heads. And they will get, as they develop, they'll get rounder and bigger and fuller, just like watching a peony, go from bloom to blossom. All very good. We got any good questions?
No.
No.
I think I'm just enjoying the explanations that you're having right now, and I just keep spitting out my questions as I have them.
All right. So this is what like a 4-month-old puppy should look like with the nose inside the face, because it's already starting to, so a lot of times we'll talk about puppies being what we call in the peel. where they will lose their puppy coat and they'll go slick. A lot of times, some folks will call it being in the uglies. It's not ugly to me, but other people think because they've blown their puppy coat out, it means that they're not as attractive. If you're going to sell pets, sure, wherever they're living when the puppy coat falls off, that's where they're going to be for the next three months while they recoat. But for show dogs, doesn't much matter. You can see he's starting to blow the puppy coat out on the back, and you see the fluff is still here over the shoulders, but the silk is starting to come in on the back. And this is a little boy puppy. He's got a bit more of an extreme eye, and his nose is tucked up in pretty good. Let's see if we can behave. Stand here for a second for us. Pretty feed on this puppy, and let's see if we get that tail. See the tail's hitting the ears.
Yeah, that tail is like right there and nonstop, man. I mean, that's
So this means two qualities: short in back and long in tail. Wonderful things. That's great. And sometimes when puppies are in this sort of an age, they'll start wagging that tail and that tail will go up and will look like a raccoon on the back of a bicycle. That tail can come up and stuff like that. I mean, they can, if the tails are down when they're weanlings, it'll probably come back down later. If they don't, a bad tail is an issue. It's hard to show, and bad tails are super hereditary. Not that fun to try to deal with.
so
I like
he looks tall. Is that a development thing at this age where their legs
so
develop
that
in length for
and every puppy, and depending as to the bloodline and the type, some will be taller, and they'll get as long as you keep your squareness, doesn't much matter. He isn't just a kind of an average-ish puppy, and probably a little bit the angle, but got kind of a nice little shape, very square, got a little bit of saddle color there. I would say that, one thing I look for in my puppies is the earlier the testicles drop, the better. These are breeds that came from old imported lines, and so FCI allowed them to be shown with one testicle for a long time. Now, I mean, they don't anymore, but these breeds here can end up with one testicle. And so earlier your testicles show up, the better. You can kind of see this puppy's got really bright, crisp markings, very symmetrically marked. You can see the width of the cheeks, the width of the jaw. You can see, let's see over here, you can see the
eye whites look pretty prominent. Is that where you're saying his eyes are a little extreme? Is that about as much as you'd want?
that's as much as I would want. I'm not the big eye white. It's like if it has any eye white, it has enough eye white, but he's got enough for him and probably for a friend. He's good on eye white. But all the time I always hear people say, "Oh, I wish it had more." I'm like, "Really?" I could loan you some, you know, but pretty nice little puppy, but you can see kind of starting to lose that kind of going from the one stage where we have all of from the puppy fluff to this, you can kind of see this is fluffier and stuff. This is starting to slick off the hair, starting to see see where the different type in there. But this is a little male puppy, about 4 months old. And I'd say this is
Available or not available?
call me.
Yeah, there you go, people. I mean, I figure if we're showing puppies, you might as well let people know it's available or not.
Wait,
Because
are we in a Walmart parking lot or what?
we're on the World Wide Web.
On the World Wide Web, even worse. All right. So this is a little bitch puppy. This is the sister to that little dog. And you can see some similarities there. You can see the nose inside the face. You can see the width of the jaw. You can see she's got some eye. You can kind of see the shape of the slightly domed over there, but still plenty high set ears to give that foreskull and that rounded. Hardest thing to get right there, to get the foreskull and the width under the jaw. So, tricky stuff there. Because I guess part of the reason it's tricky is it's easy to cover it up with hair. And since people don't really worry about it because the judges don't maybe pick on it the way they should. This puppy has dew claws, which doesn't matter, but whatever. And a little bit better.
I mean, what's your recommendation with dew claws?
Do whatever you want. I take them off when I think about it, but if I'm gone and they get born without me being there, sometimes I'll leave them. Doesn't really matter. I turn to the side. So this is a good example right here. We got a white side. Now imagine this. The tail's going to be white and kind of cover up her one body spot. You could say, well, this dog is high white. Well, let's turn it to this side. What? We've got color, and that's kind of, that's one thing as a breeders, we should kind of keep notes to see how much color we have. This puppy's got to have plenty of color, but it's not on her show side. For a breeder, we can say, well, she's not exactly high white. She's got body spotting going down her whole side. And she even has a toe freckle. Kind of unusual. You get those every now and then, get a random little thing there. You see the width, see the bubblegum cheeks? It looks like they're holding their breath. Yep, that's what we want. All right. And then I have her sister, who is a bigger girl. I may or may not show her, but I will definitely probably keep her for breeding. She's got a very extreme face.
So she's how old? 6 months?
Yeah.
4 months.
4 months old. Here, actually, I'm gonna move you back. You can see the rounded rib, the nice fullness of the rib, the tail coming up over there makes for a very square. His chin are square. But all things are round. We want the rounded foreskull.
And when you're looking at the square, it's from the front of the front legs straight up, right? To where the tail meets the base.
Yeah, so we're gonna go from here, where my hands are here, from here to the floor. So from here to here, from here to here. That's one thing where I like to touch them so I can see if they're actually square and make sure that that's not hair going off the butt. That you
Yeah,
can
because
kind
that
of,
fluff in that fluff in the mane and the pants can really make them look.
yeah. And you want to see that flexible tail, and you want to see the foreskull. It's all things round, 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 round. But like I say, once again, you've got to work these puppies on the table. It's kind of like I get a puppy from somebody and it's not been worked on the table. I say bad things about them. I do. I say,
Lazy.
exactly.
So what about length of neck? How important is that in the chin?
The length of leg neck should be in proportion to the length of leg. So you want to see them rounded through the rump. You want to see short hocks. See the hock is shorter than is like 3 fingers. Short hock down into their angulation there. The angulation should be in proportion here to the proportion here. So it's a balanced square. Now this puppy has really, because we got her standing good this way, so I'm going to move her and see if we can do it again. But because I do want you to see the difference between when we have the color on the side. I can imagine this pretty white tail coming over this, cascading over this black there. Be very, very flashy. And so you can see their face. It's gotta have the face. Have that width of jaw, big. One word I really like to use to describe the eyes is luminous. And because they should have that luminous kind of a wet look to the eye. You know, that's that shininess. So it's more so than the astonish. Astonish is an expression, and you can't walk around and have this look on your face all the time.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
if you, they'll take you to Yankton and have you committed. But but they can have a wet, luminous eye.
Almost like when you're tearing, your eyes are watering up. Like they should
Right.
almost look like they have water, like their eyes are watering up, but not wet, like not wet down under the fur.
Exactly. So I like to see. I don't want to see color on the legs. I don't want to see ticking. Ticking is flecks of color into the skin. They should be where they're white, they should be snowy white. Where they're black, it should be coal black. And that's, except now I don't have any uh sable or tricolor puppies to show you this time. We can do that later. But these are all black and white. So we're just starting it off on a black and white type of thing. But this is going to be a larger bitch compared to the sister.
And what's your thoughts on sizes? I mean, if you have a 9-pound bitch versus a 7-pound bitch.
I mean, it really kind of depends as to what I'm wanting to do. If I'm wanting to keep her, if I'm wanting to show or to breed, probably the show dog. The smaller one is be more, a little bit more desirable. But as long as they're within the appropriate range and have the appropriate shape, quality is quality. But you can see the blazes, very symmetrical, very good that's on these. Here, if only I had yet another hand.
I mean, go gadget third hand, right?
Exactly.
And these all three are littermates, or no?
Yeah, all three are littermates.
So she definitely is bigger than these other two.
Yeah, she's back. But these are the littler ones. Yep, these are smaller, and so these are probably going to be 6-7 pounds, and she's probably going to be 9+ pounds when she's all said and done. Nice.
It's maybe amazing to me. Maybe I don't know if amazing is the right word, but they all are very, very similar in the face.
Okay, right. So the father is sired by the same stud dog as the mother. So that was what we call line breeding, half brother, half sister. So that makes very, very uniform puppies if you're breeding within a family line of dogs. That's another podcast. But the uniformity really important, and you only get the uniformity by working within related dogs. Now, here is a 6-month-old puppy who is probably one of my favorite puppies. Come here, fat boy. And this is Patron, and he is 6 months old. He's already started to blow out the coat, but you can kind of see the shape, the reverse three. Let's see, we get turned this way a little bit. Noses are inside the face. He's got lip pigment. You don't see as much eye white, but you see, look how dark his lips are. And
Yeah.
see how you can see his eye white when he turns. Whistle once for him, Tyson. See if you get him to. Yep, see it.
Yeah, he perked up. Yeah.
That is what we're talking about. The astonishment is just a little. Oh, it's not a 24/7 type thing. We're gonna see if he's gonna. Yeah, this. We got to go back further.
Yeah, he's a big one. Yes, send that camera back.
Full grown. This is the coloration, very bright, and this is that puppy coat that hasn't exactly all fallen off yet, but some of it is.
So when you get that pink pigment around their nose and lips and stuff like that, what is that? What's
Well, I mean, it is what it is. It's nothing more than it's pigment,
there's
and
nothing wrong with that.
right. Whistle again. See if we can get him to look at you. You can see this puppy here's got very nice back legs, very strong. See how I'm bending him down in there, and it's holding up just like a sofa sleeper, where the back legs go right up underneath. But the front legs should be nice and high up. Front legs should go up underneath their body. Tail going right into the back to make the short. That's one thing when you're practicing tabling chin puppies. You really want to, if you have like a mirror or a podcast you happen to be doing, you can really kind of look and see, and you kind of
How you want to lean them a little bit to make them look shorter.
exactly. Well, you can kind of like see a little bit like where you're looking at the color and stuff. And this to me is like my favorite amount of color because he's got a bonnet and stuff. He's got the color across the top, which is and he's gonna have big ears, which is, I mean, it's not tons of fake ear, but it's enough fake ear. But part of it, when you start looking at those puppies from the side, and that's where you get them out out in the yard and watch them cruising around, and you start seeing the shapes and how they're standing. That's real. That's how because you can make them look like anything for a picture, but how they actually sound. Is that tail hitting into the neck? Because that's a good tail and a short back all at the same time. I'm gonna try to move him in so you can see see that rear quarters, that rounded butt right there.
And how do you look at like tail up over the body? Like what's the breed standard says tail. I don't know the exact wording. I'm sure you do, but is there like I don't want to be able to slip a finger between the back and the tail. How do you kind of look at
So
that?
we want to go ahead and we want to go in there and have the shape. The shape's got to look good. And we want to be able to get in there and see. Well, here's nothing. While he's doing that, while he's licking, that is the width of the jaw. You'll see the tongue come straight out of the mouth, and then the tongue goes away. That means he's got a good bite.
And he's got the
He's got
jowls.
his teeth are in good alignment. If his tongue goes off to either side, then he is wry-mouthed. And that's kind of a deal breaker in Japanese chin. You don't want to see a wry-mouthed puppy. But that, color clarity, symmetrical markings, the nose inside the face, the square shape, the short back and the long tail, all of that is so important. And of course, I think that these are like pretty much perfect eyes for an adult chin. I mean, that's what I like to see. I want him to see him luminous and sparkling. He doesn't look like he's in horror or shock or even astonished. I hate that word. I think, it's kind of really push the button.
Come on, little buddy, you're not astonished.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I am astonished. I am on a podcast, but you sometimes some Asiatic lions, well, they won't have any black on the lips. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I think it's kind of showy. I like it. I think it's pretty pigment. I'm never opposed to good pigment. You got, pretty long toes, to get the hair foot, so when you're talking about faults, we're going to have to go ahead and go, the fault is to the degree of the deviation. So how short is the tail? How long is the back? And, of course, when we go and show our dogs, they're just comparing them to what else is there. And so you might have the best of a bad lot. Well, congratulations. That doesn't necessarily mean your dog is good. It means it just was better than the other ones, or at least that judge thought so. But ultimately, it's the breeder's responsibility. And these dogs, they were based on the 7 chakras of the Buddha. They are like giant pandas in dog form. And the symmetry and the balance and the markings are so important. And that brightness to them. They should just look like they really catch your eye. And I think if people, when they start walking them in a circle, I think they're missing out on so much of what's important about Japanese chin. It's a lot to this little breed, a lot of little details and things that, you don't necessarily see. And they are naughty to show, and sometimes they don't want to behave. It takes a lot of work to get them to do it, because there's nothing about them as a natural show dog. People who show Japanese chin have some sort of torture type of thing, because they are not easy.
No, that's
Easier.
for sure. Now, okay, so we got Japanese chin breeders most likely listening to this podcast. I hope so. If you're a Japanese chin breeder and you're not listening to this podcast, you're missing out. But so what is the most important thing they should be looking for first and foremost? Are we looking nose inside the face? That's like the first thing we should be looking at when we're trying to pick like what dog we're going to keep out of this litter. Find the one with the nose inside the face.
Nose inside the face, symmetrical markings, short. Those are your 3 things. If you have a short dog with symmetrical markings and a nose inside its face, you are 90% home. That's your stuff. If you got that, throw on a good tail, all of that, you're well on the way.
And are those 3 things with chins things that they're born that way, you're going to notice it and it stays that way? They're not going to be born really short and then all of a sudden grow in length, or can that happen?
I have never really had puppies that were short in because the length is measured in loin, not in body. So the body, they're supposed, because if you look at this little guy, he is a chunk. I mean, because I've got reasonably good sized hands, and he's a long way around him. They have a big rib cage because they're round, and that roundness is part of the whole thing. So I mean, that is not going to change. They're not going to have a big rib cage and have all of a sudden end up being a small, narrow, shallow one. The more likely you'll find are like small, refined, short ribs, longer in the loin. But then the hair will come in. Hair is something that can make the picture, and hair can make them look shorter than they are. Hair and markings can make the heads look broader than they are. The hair on the body can make them look like they're rounder and chunkier rib than they are. The hair on the tail, I mean, hair can make everything look better. But at the end of the day, if it's a turd burger and you frost it, it's still a turd burger. So hair comes, hair goes, but the shape and what's going on underneath is way more important, at least to breeders. It should be. You know, that's what we want to see, is see that round little dog that's like, and when they stop, they have to turn their feet out at 10 and 2 to kind of balance because they're so round. Round, round, round. That's the shape of the Japanese chin.
And I feel like there's been multiple times throughout this podcast where I'm sitting there thinking, like, man, we need to our judges overall need more education on the Japanese chin. They need more education because there's a lot of times where it's a breed where you have to really feel it, right? You have to feel that dog on the table and see and actually
Right.
feel the squareness and feel the ribs and feel the loin. And I think a lot of times you'll get in the ring and a judge will look at it and they'll kind of have their mind made up before they get on the table, and they'll get on the table and they'll just go over it real quick and then, all right, down a bit. Like, sometimes
Right.
you get them where they look good at the face and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get them where they feel them down really good and sometimes you don't. It's like, how can we as breeders really help educate? And I think that the biggest answer probably is be honest with yourself and put out the really good quality dogs and pet home the rest, right? Kind of thing. Like, really be honest with yourself of what you have.
So that those are all very, very valid points. And at the point in time when competition is stronger in a breed and there were fewer shows and you had to have a better dog to win, that set a bar, right? You have to be at least this good or you're not going to win. Now we have a lot of shows. And there's lots of ways of manipulating those points and all of that stuff, and with crossovers and all of that. Well, okay, that's kind of like cheating on your diet. Like, hey, don't tell Jane I'm hitting the carbs. Well, okay, that's fine, but it's still gonna show up on the scale. So, I mean, if you go ahead and if you don't, I mean, yes, championships, wonderful, great. I love it. Been totally involved in it. But honestly, it's a personal thing. It's something you inside you go, I know. It's because when I show something beautiful, and even if the person doesn't see it, I don't care. It's like, I don't want that one that won. It doesn't mean anything to me. It's like, just because you don't know doesn't mean I don't know, And I think that that's the thing, is it's kind of like, you've got to set it. It's a personal goal. This is an ancient breed of ancient type. And so when people say statements that I think are totally and completely ignorant and detrimental to dogs of type, when they say, they got to move for me, whatever. If you need to throw away 2,000 years of breed type because it can run like its tail's on fire, you do you. This is a breed of type, and you get them to walk a little bit for you, booyah. I mean, but ultimately, this is what the breeders should want and cherish and promote. And this is what people, when people think about Japanese chin, that's what they want.
So through the years of breeding, what is the one thing that you've seen like bred out, or like what's like the biggest fault you've seen bred in? Like, where are we deviating from in Japanese chin? Where are we deviating the most from the breed standard through the years?
Length.
They're
Length.
getting too long.
Long, way too long. I mean, and long may have a little bit of a spot as far as for breeding, because productivity and length can kind of sometimes go a little bit hand in hand, but long is not good. Long is not show type. So, I mean, we really need to always keep in mind our length. I mean, those square outline of this round little dog, circles gets a square. Sounds like Hollywood Squares, right?
Yeah.
And but that's what I see. Because mostly what I see is pretty good markings. I mean, even dogs that are not very good quality will have nice markings, because that's kind of a corn poopy. Doesn't need much explanation, right? But people, like, on the faces, on the type, on the head, on the eyes, on the expression, on the finer details of the breed, that sometimes doesn't get seen in the 2.5-minute evaluation in the show ring. Where how much, I mean, if you think about it, you go in the ring, you go around, You get them on the table. You got your 45-second evaluation on the table. And is it based on what you're looking at or behavior of the dog? You know, because I don't care if it's a dog is. I'm not an obedience person. My dogs are horrible. They're naughty, but they're happy. But it's like I don't care. It's like they're beautiful. If you want well-behaved children, go to the border collie ring. But then they move them down and back, and then maybe they'll move them some more. But when you're talking about a breed of head type, your last decision should be when you're picking them up and you're looking at them like this, and you go, whose nose is more inside their face, whose eyes are more are more liquid eyes, who's got the tinier nose, who's got the perfect feet, who's got the brightest color. These are the elements of breed type, because these dogs don't have to catch anything, they don't have to hunt anything, they don't have to bring down prey or scare people off from your property. They're all about breed type, and that's why toy dogs are kind of harder, because you can't just fake your way through it on fat, furry, and fast, and that will work for a lot, but not chin. Fat, furry, and fast can still just be a pet.
So what about like if you're examining the face, you're looking at the head, tear stains, like how does that come into play in the ring?
Wow. Okay. So good question. Tear stains. Is this tear staining is this like, are we outside in some luxurious Wyoming cattle barn and the dust and dirt is blowing and our big-eyed chin has got a little bit of staining? Okay, you could maybe a little, but I don't like it. I think it ruins the look. I think it could possibly mean you have distichiasis, inverted eyelashes. You could have other things. I don't want to see a wet face. And the only thing that bothers me more than a wet face is a face that's full of chalk, because they're trying to cover up the stain from the wet face. Because it's like, oh, not only has it got a wet face, you knew it had a wet face and you entered it and brought it to the show anyway because you don't think it's important. It is
So
important.
a lot of chin have wet face. Is that genetic?
You were in Marshall. Did you
Yeah.
see a lot with wet faces?
No, not a ton. I have seen a ton, but there wasn't a ton in
I
Marshall.
have seen them as well, but I don't like it.
Is that a genetic thing, you think?
I would say yes. I would say, I mean, you can't say it across the board. It could be an environmental thing. Maybe they rode over to the show with an Uber driver that was smoking Pall Malls and blowing it on them. Maybe,
Yeah,
maybe,
maybe.
but maybe
Oh,
could be. You got some clogged ducts. Maybe insufficient ducts. Eye health is more important than eye white. Yeah, I said it. Eye health. A, a pretty shiny liquid reflective eye, more important. That's a bright, sparkly, naughty eye that is smart and intelligent and may or may not want to behave. More important.
yeah. Now, what about last kind of thing? Because we talked about it when judges are picking up puppies, dogs, looking at their heads. It seems, for me specifically, to happen one in every 5 shows. A judge will actually do that. So,
That
how
makes
do
me unbelievably happy, because I went decades without seeing that. Decades.
okay, so in your eyes, we're making progress.
We're making progress.
We're getting them to do it a little bit.
Because the last thing you look at is what you pick on. And that's so that, I mean, our old standard before we did color changes and it all went away and all that, 65 points went for head, eyes, ears, and tail. So what that's telling you is movement important, top line important. Great. You can't have a quality Japanese eyes, ears, and tail. If you don't have those qualities, I don't care how good it moves. Not sure quality.
It could float.
What's that?
It could float. It doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. I mean, though it's just a higher bar, and so one of my favorite judges who I just always thought so much of, Ann Rogers Clark, she would made a statement which was true then, true today. you pick out your dogs of type, and then you pick the soundest of those dogs of type. But first you have type. The dogs without type, meh, who cares? You know, and then go in there, and then you go in there and you get, and if you are so lucky, if you are super lucky, you go and say, "Oh, these are so nice." One of them has a little white behind its ear. Maybe this one's got, maybe this or maybe that. You can start nitpicking. That is a special day. That is wonderful. I mean, when you can nitpick, you know, but you've got to see big face. You got to see the round, the broad jaw, high set ears, the symmetry, the color, all of that stuff that makes a Japanese chin. And just like with the Papillon, with the butterfly ears and the rounded tips and the curtain fringe and all of the beauty and glamour that goes with that, all of these things, you're the pugs with their little button or rose ears and their a lot and a little, all of those are things that are breed defining. The Pekingese is a pair, front heavy, short, all here, narrow here, like a bodybuilder when you watch them walk. They're like this, and it's the shape. Every breed has it. The chins is a round little panda dog, and color doesn't much matter. It doesn't. I mean, black and white is easier to judge because you have a brighter contrast. So when you get over to look at lemon and white or red and white or sable and white, sable is bright and pretty, and sometimes you'll get a bright copper red sable with pretty tippings, and you'll go, well, I caught that one. Okay, acknowledge it. It's beautiful, and if you can, reward it. But it has to be the best one. It has to be the best one. It has to have the type that goes with it, and don't get pulled into pretty color and pretty markings and put up a narrower face with the nose outside the face, that kind of thing, or a narrow, slatty little body where it doesn't all chunked out and round. Those are the things that make the better dog, and they
Sounds
show up early. They
yeah.
show up early. That doesn't happen later. It's not like there's not like, went to bed and it was really just an ugly little pet and woke up and yeah, well, off we go to Westminster. No, doesn't
It's like
happen like that.
if you have a show dog, you have a show dog from the beginning.
You had a show dog the night before you went to bed. Yeah. Yeah. It was always a show dog. Now you might have a dog that is in condition and that might work for a show dog. Oftentimes maybe it does, but those key elements of breed type.
Well, this has been a fantastic episode looking at your puppies, going over what you evaluate through the age range. I think a lot of people will like this episode. And so if you do, make sure you're subscribed. We'll wrap this episode up here because Dale's lawn is being mowed. And
It is. We have
it's
had so much rain, it's going to grow over the house if
oh my
we
gosh.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dale's getting his lawn mowed right now, and we've been over an hour, so we had a really good episode. This is probably one of my favorite ones. It's nice to be able to see the chin and the puppies and go over it. So we really appreciate that. Any closing comments?
Hey, you know what? Enjoy your dogs. They're perfect to you. When you put on your breeder hat, they're all imperfect, and you have to be honest about what you're evaluating and always have a goal in mind as to where you want to go. Don't ever get complacent.
Absolutely, very well said. All right, everybody, make sure you subscribe, and we will talk to you guys again next week. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.